Today we're going to be installing a Tillotson TCT mechanical fuel injection carburetor on my Trailmaster to see how it runs. Let's get started. You're going to need a flat blade screwdriver. Let me unload all my objects. A pair of pliers. Sockets that fit your corresponding motor. Replacement gaskets, which come with the carburetor when you buy it from Go Power Sports. A ratchet and a 10mm to take off the intake adapter. You are also going to need an Allen head so that you can adjust the air-fuel ratio and everything inside that carb. An extension for your ratchet and the other sockets you may need. So we're going to start out with the air filter here. Bring it down here, cameraman. Bring it to exactly where I'm doing this. Thank you. So you're going to loosen your clamp. This is a stage 1 motor, which just has the intake redone. You would have a box at 6 up here, but I have the stage 1 kit. You would have the box if your motor is stage 1. Mine is a brand new. Okay, and I have shut off the fuel up here, coming out of the tank. So what may drip will be just coming out of the carburetor and the line. You're gonna need to loosen these 2 nuts. And for the Tillotson carburetor, this is one thing I definitely like. It has a screw to hold down the choke lever, so you no longer need this bracket that failed on mine, which I mean, it's fine. It just so happened that I ordered a the Tillotson a day before. So I am going to take off the choke bracket once I take off the intake. And this video will not be cut because I want you to see the exact installation. No hidden surprises of, oh, you have to do this, but I didn't include that in the video. I'm just putting the nuts and all the stuff inside the air filter. I know that's not the greatest idea because you can get them dirty. Dirt inside there. I am gonna clean this off quick and remove this. I know that's not the screw that came with this. What came with this was a bolt, but I lost it somehow. So yeah, there you go. And the Predator air filter adapter will in fact work with the Tillotson. This part is garbage though. You no longer need it. So I'm gonna wipe this off. And notice the Go Power Sports logo right there. Everything you can see here can be bought at Go Power Sports except for the tools. And this, I bought this guy off Amazon because the ones that Go Power Sports had were not the right ones. You're going to want to remove the spacer, which I'm not sure if you need that, so we'll find out here in a bit. So the reason I said you're going to need pliers is to remove the clamps on the fuel line. Don't pinch your fuel line like I just accidentally did with the screw with this. You're gonna need a bucket to catch it. What's gonna drip out of there when you disconnect the line. But I'm also gonna drain the carburetor bowl while doing this. And since I'm up, I'm also gonna grab a jack so that I can put it up on a jack when I first start it, so that I don't have it try to take off on me. There we go. Which is just a 3-ton trolley jack. That's what I'm using. I have that off to the side because we're not using it instantly. So, and because gasoline in and of itself is actually a solvent, it'll help get rid of what's on top of here. So, I'm going to remove the drain plug from the carb and let it drain. Now, provided you've shut off the tank, all that's going to come out is what's in your line and in your carb. Now I'm going to leave this bolt, aka drain plug, up there so that I can remove this secondary bowl which houses extra fuel. And the Tillotson does not have that or a shutoff on it, which is the only thing I really wish it had. I believe you can buy inline fuel shutoffs from Go Power Sports. Because I'm giving this carb to a friend, I want to make sure there's no gas in it while I store it for the week and give it to him on church on Sunday. The reason I want to make sure there's no gas in it is transformation and transportation between vehicles. I don't want gas if they decide to bring it in the cabin. So before I put the bowl back on, I'm going to remove the carburetor from the unit. I'm not actually giving this carburetor to WY20 Modding, a good friend of mine. And you want to disconnect your linkage. Just got to wiggle that guy off of there and you can get it off without removing any of the studs. Take your carb and reassemble before putting it away so that you don't get any dirt inside the passages. And the drain plug for the bottom of the main bowl. You're going to need a 10mm to reattach these. And this will go off to the side in place of where I had the Tillotson. I gotta have a place for the Tillotson because I have to take off gaskets. So I'm gonna move our catch bin to the side and remove the wire from your restrictor plate and pull the plate out, because these gaskets in here are ones I replaced when I put on the stage 1 kit, and as you can see, I think I over tightened it and the gasket smushed in a little, so I want to replace those. And there's a piece of that back one. And no, this motor does not have a polished intake. That would be like stage 3 essentially. when you put a Mikuni on here. It was actually a debate between putting on one of these or a Mikuni, but the Mikuni is way too expensive for a motor without having a cam and a lighter flywheel. And yes, I know this is going to take a minute because I'm using my fingers to clean this. You don't have to include this. Most people would clean this out with brake clean, but I don't have any. Let's make sure okay, it'll reach for sure. Get your 3 gaskets that come with the kit. You will need the one that goes up against the block and all of them, so do not lose them.
Put them in a safe box.
Oh, shoot. Will this fit over that and create a seal? No. Now I am in a oops position because I and/or Go Power Sports included 2 of these gaskets instead of 1 for each spot. So now I do not know what to do since I don't have the gasket. Tell you this, I'm gonna pull this piece of wood out of here. Well, that's a piece of belt from a long time ago. Get all your belts and everything for the Trailmasters at Go Power Sports. .com. And I don't have gasket makers, so this might end up twice as bad. Wait. Will this gasket work? I know it's going to be a restriction to horsepower. To say the least. Oh, until I get the correct one from Go Power Sports, we'll just put that there. And where is that restrictor plate? What are you looking at with that? The bag, I know. Where is that little plastic restrictor plate that I had? This was attached to. A little black thing. Do you have it? Oh, it's at my foot. So this is the plate you're gonna need to go between your carb, dripping gas again. What is stopping us? Oh, it's the spark plug wire. Make sure you put that back in the slot because it gets in the way sometimes. Well, I'm not exactly happy with not having the correct gasket, but I mean, it'll do. Oh, shoot. I just realized that gasket needs to go right here. Okay, it actually lines up with the outside of the port a little bit better than that one, and it actually will seal. So I'm gonna put the restrictor plate on now with the wrong gasket behind it. Thank you, Go Power Sports. Contact Go Power Sports for all your gasket needs. So now we're going to install the one that I was going to use there, right here, on this side of the restrictor plate. Let's hope it fits. Nice and snug. Okay, so you want the choke facing out. So let's do this. Now I understand how I was able to get this guy in there. In and out of there. You have to remove this left stud, which just happened to be loose. So let's hope I can get it out with my fingers. And assistance by a pair of pliers. Everyone says just back two studs up against each other on there. I've always had issues with that, where I strip out studs. Now make sure as you're installing this that you put back in your linkage arm. Okay, so we're gonna have to make a modification to this. If you look in here, the little piece of plastic that holds the spark plug boot is actually hitting on the top of the carburetor. So I'm gonna have to remove that from here before we can move on to the next step. They do say slight engine modification is necessary, so I mean, there we go. Just chip it off with a pair of pliers. Grip it and pull it. And we'll line the hole back up on there. And put her back up against there. Where is the gasket that I just had? Thank you. Now for test fit number 2. Let's line her up. Make sure we're showing what we're doing, Paige. Okay, make sure to reconnect it. I don't have the spring in there because I thought it was useless. Come on, maybe get in there. Get in there. Your spark plug wire is gonna have to go between your throttle and there. I'm gonna reinstall that, reinstall everything. Reinstall your fuel line or you're gonna have issues with no start. You will crank on this forever if you do not have that on there. Oh, your foot's asleep.
Yeah, well, it feels like pins and needles.
Okay. So now that your carburetor's in there, and I just realized that my gasket's on weird. Okay, let's try this spacer. Okay, so we're gonna have to put in the stud again. See the fatter side at the end goes towards the block so that your carburetor stays
In place.
in adjustment. And make sure, for the love of Pete, that your gaskets end up on the studs. And I'm going to dump some fuel down to the carb to find out if we have any leaks. Nope. So let's shut it again. So that I can people in Erie, Colorado are gonna have a fun time right now because the weather is not pleased. The clouds coming towards you are looking bad. Now that we have this in here, we're going to put on, get back down here so that they can see what is going on. Make sure you line up the holes and make sure your choke properly works. And if you look inside there, you can see the little idler where the hole is for the idle. Now we need to find the two nuts that I used to put this on, which are inside here. Thank you, Grant, for putting those in there. Thank you, Self, for putting those in there and forgetting that you put them in there.
And thank you, cameraman, for reminding
Camera
me.
woman. Make sure that your throttle is hooked up. And tighten down your nuts on these studs. It seems our camera woman has issues with dirt on the ground.
No, I just sat on a big rock,
Exactly, dirt on the ground.
and it really hurt my butt.
TMI, camera woman, TMI.
You know I know what that means.
Too much information.
And I've heard you say it 1,000,000 times. And I'm sick and tired of it. It's super annoying.
Now, one thing, if you look inside here, this plate right here is going to is going to be in the way of your adjustment for the air-fuel ratio. Let's make sure these are sunk down tight, good and tight. Now, since I did clean the air filter recently, this cover is just dirty. I'm gonna just slap it back on there without cleaning it, even though that's a very bad idea if your filter is dirty, because you will get your air-fuel ratio wrong.
So, if your air filter is dirty, clean it before you put it back on.
Before you do this modification, so that you can get accurate air-fuel ratio results. Make sure to tighten that as tight as possible. Make sure all of your linkages still work. And if you look to bypass the governor, because I have yet to have the ability to remove it, I just stuck baling wire from this arm to that.
And when this video is over, please go check out GoPowerSupports.com
for all your go-kart needs. So before we crank this up, I'm gonna let the fuel flow, and we're going to get this on a jack. Now you want this as far left as possible because these Trailmasters are not exactly even when you put them on a jack. See how it's lifting the right side and not the left? Maybe we'll get it this time far enough over. Cars and cameras can tell you that you always want to lift these up before starting them after doing anything with throttles, because they have had many karts run away on them. But as Ike would say, it'll be fine. Now I am customizing this plate so I can have access to the air-fuel ratio screw. Now, make sure your tires spin over when it's on the jack so that you're not gonna have any issues, and shake it to make sure it's not gonna fall over. And I would not suggest having anyone on top of it while you're doing anything. It looks like we are dripping gas. I believe it's coming from the line. I believe I didn't get it down far enough on the neck.
Well, while GT20 modding is being quiet, I'll tell you about the weather here. Very nice.
It's very hot.
Very sunny.
Hot.
Very, very hot. It was like 75 on the way home from church.
Which was at 10 o'clock, genius. It was more like 80 yesterday.
There's a breeze. There's a breeze. That helps you cool down a lot. It's actually getting hot here in the barn.
Uh-oh. Bring the camera over here so you can see exactly what I messed up. The cap for the air-fuel ratio adjustment is now down inside the neck. And now it's out. Make sure to put that in a safe place because you do not want dirt getting in there, because that also controls your throttle. So let's turn the ignition on, cross your fingers, and hope you don't blow something up. So I'm gonna move all this stuff off the gas tank while we do this. I'm going to back down the idle setting, turn the choke on, and what?
Pressing both.
Okay, you don't have to, it's a joke.
Pull harder. Or did you mess something up again? It's either he's not pulling hard enough or he messed something up.
Or the air-fuel ratio needs to be adjusted.
Yeah, as in you messed up. You didn't do something right.
No, as in it doesn't come pre-adjusted for your motor.
Pull harder.
Comes adjusted for a Tillotson TCT Carb.
Not pulling hard enough.
No, I am, trust me. The
Worked for a
idle
minute.
speed is what's too low.
It worked for a minute. Pull harder and fast. Pull faster.
as I know my go-kart.
Work, stupid thing.
Ow. Clean conditions. So let's look down at the So we need to loosen this
Hurry up.
to make it more rich.
Okay, this video is 31, almost 32 minutes long.
Well, it'll not only be the longest video, it'll probably be the most exciting, aka most weird. Let's try it with the choke. Okay, let's increase the idle. Choke. Just about. So if I give it a whirl, and you pull it out to start. Choke off. Okay, give it some gas. Let's get it to run. So when you tighten this, it increases the RPM at which it sits at. Come on, keep going. gotta pull this out so that it'll start. Let's try starting it with some RPM. Let's retry it. Does it smoke when you rev it? If so, it's too rich. Woo, boy, I'm getting excited to try this out. We're gonna richen it up a tiny bit more. Let's try it with the choke. I just killed it with pushing down the needle. All right, so see the test drive of this in the next video. Like it if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Go check out my other videos, such as the cold start of this machine back here. The top speed run for this with the new carburetor will be up soon. Oh, and one thing, never forget. If you don't want dirt in a crevice, put a cover on it. Hope you enjoyed.